For kids on the autism spectrum, comfort matters. Nundies are sensory-friendly absorbent pants made for kids. No rustling, no scratchy textures, just dry nights and calm mornings. Plus, get 30% off your first order with the code WITA30 at confidenceclub.com.au.
Hello and welcome to Wine with Wita, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Wita. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to an episode of Wine with Wita. We continue the conversation about school readiness and if your child is ready for school. Now, as a mum myself, I know how hard this question is. And when your child is born, the March, April, May time, it's really confusing for you to make that decision if you should send your child to school. However, as we know, there's no one straight answer. And it's about you understanding all information from different allied health professionals for you to make the best decision for your child. And today I have a different perspective. I am graced with Anne Murphy, who is a child and family counsellor. Welcome, Anne, to Wine with Wita.
Thank you, Rita. It's lovely to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Oh, me too. Now, Anne, I've saw a little brief bio about yourself. Anne is a client-centered practitioner, and her passion is to help people and is always striving to increase her knowledge in the most effective way to support her clients. Now, Anne, could you please explain to the listeners who you are, about your business, and what's your passion with pediatrics?
Oh, okay. That's so multifaceted. So I guess from my perspective, I do work as a school counsellor 3 days a week, and I'm also doing private practice with victim services to support people parents and children, families that have been through DV or traumatic experiences, and also generalised counselling. So I guess I come under the framework of a child and family counselling, and it's a beautiful space to be. I've worked with adults, but coming into that space of children, I think, is the amazing part where we can really make change for them going forward. Because it's very hard when we get older. We've learned all these coping strategies and we've kind of pushed everything down so far that when it does come out, it's really difficult for us to manage. And we've got to be really brave, let's be honest, as adults, to confront those experiences, any traumas, or just even our big feelings that we may find difficult to regulate. So when we can work with children, that's where the magic happens, because it sets them up for success going forward.
I love how you said that. It's quite humbling to work with children to support their current needs because, as I always tell my patients, we are creating adults. We are supporting future adults. And if we do not support the child now, unfortunately, their needs will continue to increase. And at times, children will suppress it, their difficulties, or mask it. And that's when they have to face the reality as an adult, when they're independently living in the world. How do they cope? Because they weren't taught how to cope when they were younger.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are so impacted by our own upbringing. And I think that's the hard part. There's so many pressures on us as parents. And, as a mum of 4, and part of that is a solo parent, it's like, what am I meeting? Am I meeting the social expectations, or am I meeting my children where they are and supporting them through their development and growth? Yeah.
I love that. Am I meeting the social expectation or my child's development and growth? And so many families, and I see it, are struggling between both parties,
Yeah.
right? Between the
Yeah.
social and what their child actually needs. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's get into it. Let's
So,
talk school readiness. Now, in my field of practice as a speech pathologist, one of the most common questions I'm always asked, should I send my child to school? They're 4.5. Their birthday's in March. They should be okay, but I don't know if I should. Now, as a mum and a speechy, I always suggest starting later
mhm,
because the gap to where the child is currently at to even their peers, that could be up to 12 months age gap. And that in itself will impact a child socially, emotionally, and academically. And
yeah,
we'll talk about this more today, but every element of a child's development impacts everything. Yeah. It's so beyond the academic progress. So, Anne, please, what does school readiness mean to you from the school counsellor perspective?
I think it is very complex, but it's really looking at where is your child at? And that's not whether they can write their name or whether they can count to 100. That's irrelevant. It's about how are they socially and emotionally? Are they struggling to say goodbye to you at preschool? Are they able to engage with other children and have, we know there's going to be a lot of parallel play at that time, but they're building little networks of friends and they can look forward to seeing those children as they turn up to preschool and they come and share those stories through the day that they've had with you in the afternoons. It's about them having that sense of ability to or independence to sort of take that step away. And I think from my own experience, it was I had twins. One was ready to go at 5.5 and one wasn't. So I kept them both back. And just noticing that difference, um, it was the right decision to make. Seeing as if I had have sent them earlier, that one that was not quite ready to go would have impacted those relationships that they had, would have made it more difficult for them, connecting in with social structures and peers and following the structure of school in many ways too. The minute that child turned 6, though, it was like, oh, I've got 6 months of a child that's so super ready to go now. But I wouldn't change that because that
Yeah,
set them
yeah,
up to be able to have a good experience at school, not to feel that they weren't equal to their peers, weren't at the same stages as their peers, because we've also got to look at the cognitive and those motor skills and things that are happening as well. And are they matching up with the other children that they're going to school with?
yeah. It's so complex to understand it. And I guess we have this privilege of understanding the development side of things, but
Mm,
many parents are quite lost and
mm,
they are only taught through what they're seeing on like social media or through actual resources where they say it's all about the letters, teach your children how to write their name, their handwriting should be neat, but it's so much more than that.
yeah, definitely.
Mm,
And that
mm.
engaging in play and problem solving and building and, using their finer motor skills too. People think kicking a ball, well, I don't know. A lot of people maybe don't use that kicking a ball with their child as much as
Yeah.
we used to, right? So even those things that
No.
there's so much more screen time now. So the children aren't using their bodies in the way that they used to, building that strength of core, that ability to work cross body, all of those sorts of things. And it sounds complex. It's not. It's just might be. I remember going to school and you'd sort of pat yourself on the head and rub your tummy,
Yeah, I
right?
remember that.
We don't do that anymore.
We don't do that anymore.
No.
Wow.
And I can't remember what it was. I saw something else the other day, and it was like, oh, it was jumping jacks. I was watching someone do jumping jacks,
Yeah.
and there was a whole row of people, and they could all do it except for one. And I thought, we used to do that as children. We don't do that anymore either. So it's those things that
Mhm.
really give children that sense of being in their body and being able to use their body functionally. I think that's part of it too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
You've
so
also highlighted play. It's all play.
play. But we learn so
Yeah.
much through play. And I think that's where we
Mm.
get caught up. We become adults and we forget what it's like to be a child and where that
Yeah.
creativity and that spark and that love and of life and joy comes from. But even as
Yeah.
adults, we can still do that.
But we just lost it along the way.
Yeah.
Mm. I want to talk more about the academic side of things. So, we both know that academic skills is not just letters and numbers. Let's talk about how important social and emotional development is for kids starting school.
Okay. Well, that's everything. That's their
Yeah.
connection. That's their sense of safety. That's, being able to feel confident to walk away from mum and know mum's coming back at the end of the day, because she does, or dad's coming back at the end of the day. That in itself is what will allow that child to enter the classroom and feel safe and ready and happy to be with their peers. Whether they can count to 100 is irrelevant when it means they're
Mm.
sitting in a classroom of 28 other children and teachers and everything else, and then going out on a playground. Academics really doesn't play a role in that at all.
No, it's that problem solving that they learn on the playground and how they navigate challenging conversations and challenging times with their peers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those feelings, right? We know how many times do their feelings get hurt and someone said something mean, and just navigating that is huge.
Big, big, big one. What are some clear signs that a child is ready for school, socially, emotionally, and developmentally?
Okay, so I think things I'd be looking for would be, is your child able to dress themselves, or at least organise and themselves to put pants on, and they might not be able to quite do their buttons up and might need help, but they can actually get the shirt on and things like that. They don't have to be able to do their shoelaces at that time, but to be able to put shoes on their feet with their, like, put socks and then shoes on, and you tie them up, shows that level of independence that they're able to care for themselves.
Mm,
Obviously, we would want them toileting as well, and that sense of they're quite confident to be able to leave you and know that they're going to be safe and they're okay, and that they're confident interacting with other children.
yeah, yeah. I guess also that self-advocacy skill,
To be able
them
to,
being able to request to get things done, whether that's a task or a situation that's happened in the classroom.
yeah, for sure. And I think
Mm,
we kind of did touch on that, didn't we, earlier, about that communication and how important it is for them to be able to identify what their needs are, or
mm,
articulate a feeling. And that's another thing that's quite left behind, I think, of often children know what sad, mad, happy is. And there's often a really big expectation on being happy all the time, but none of us are
yeah.
happy all the time, right? And happiness is actually such a short-lived emotion. We're looking for more things like joy or contentment or connection. They're the things that actually help us to feel more whole and more supported within
Mm.
our relationships and communities.
I love that you mentioned that because as a speechy, it's all
Mm,
about emotional vocabulary. And many kids that experience communication challenges sometimes find it really hard to explain word or the vocabulary more than happy and sad.
yeah,
Everything is happy, sad, and angry, but it's
yeah,
beyond that. And what you said, they're short lived experiences. Sometimes I feel delighted, sometimes I feel ecstatic, sometimes I feel just content. But those emotions are felt very differently. And kids need to
exactly.
not only understand the term, but feel it. So
Mm,
when they're in a situation, they can verbalize how they're feeling just rather than just crying about it because they just can't express themselves.
that's so true. And even
Mm.
if we come to that nervous system, we know that excitement and anxiety are on either side of that nervous system, but they feel the same, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, how do I know whether I'm excited or I'm scared, or am I both at the same time? Which, if we're going on a roller coaster, let's face it, we
Yeah.
are
It's
scared and
both.
we're excited at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's really helping them identify what's happening in their body for their feelings, and then being able to articulate that, the word that matches that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm loving how both of our professions are intertwining because it just shows the importance of working in a multidisciplinary approach. That
Definitely.
there's my bit as a communication specialist, but then there's your bit, which is the emotional and maturity side of things for kids, but they equally all overlap and align.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. Yeah. They work together symbiotically, don't they? It's really lovely.
Yeah, which is really beautiful. Now,
Yeah.
we've spoken about the good signs about a child. Now, let's talk about the red flags of a child and what might be portrayed or demonstrated if they aren't ready for school.
So I think, and we do talk about it a lot, but we would have to say that, that anxious attachment to mum, separation anxiety, not wanting to leave her. I'd also consider, if the child hasn't been to preschool and hasn't been into care with other adults, and really primarily being with mum, it's going to make it very difficult for that transition to school for them to
Yeah.
feel comfortable going into that space.
Can I
Um,
ask, what's the impact of that? You mentioned the attachment to mum. What are
mm,
the, not necessarily repercussions, but what do you notice and how that can impact in the classroom?
in that anxious attachment, or anxious, it's not an anxious attachment, but it's that sense of separation from mum and worrying
Sure.
about not being with her. So sometimes what we see is that it impacts the child walking into class. It might have
Yeah.
impact them going into spaces or trying new things. Even it could be they might not want to leave mum. They might be crying. They might be emotional. Puts tension on mum as well, because mum's wanting to do the right thing to
Mm.
bring the child to school. Then teachers will usually intervene to help that child go into class. But it's really about building trust in that child building trust and sense of safety within the classroom. Now, we know the space is safe, we know that they're going to be well cared for, but the child doesn't know that.
Yeah,
So
no.
if they've not had those experiences where they can know that it's okay, mum's brought me here and I know I'm going to be safe because mum wouldn't take me somewhere I'm not safe,
Yeah.
then it makes it very challenging for them. And it's understandable that they would be so anxious and upset in those situations. It can then, we know that it can sometimes cause disruption in the class, but it causes so much distress for that particular child.
Mm.
And it's then they're sitting in that. So even if they calm down, some children might be upset for quite some time. Some may just, once mum's gone, they're fine, and that's okay. That's a pretty expected response, right? Especially when we're talking about kindy. But if there's a long space of distress, then that's impacting the child being able to learn, engage with their peers, connect into what's happening around them, because they're not even aware of what's going on around them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. It's a big one because again, just that then sets the distress to learn, impacts the building relationships. And I can just imagine so many children masking what they're feeling the whole day and
Mm.
then coming home and lashing out at mum. But
Yeah,
really, if we look at the behavior, it was just more, I was too scared to leave. I want to be with you as my safe person because I
yeah,
don't know who, or I haven't established that safe person yet at school.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Mm.
So having, if they've had that experience of preschool or being with other carers, it shows that there is an element of safety with other adults and they know that they
Yeah.
can trust that. So yeah, that would be a key one. I guess also there's that social connection of being able to articulate what they need and be able to
Mm.
respond to questions from other people and peers, and in just engaging in play, really
Yeah.
would be, if
Yeah.
they're not doing those things, then it might be let's leave them a little bit longer, or let's put them into preschool so that they can build those skills and develop them. I think one thing we noticed through COVID was the importance of what preschool sets children up for,
Yeah.
right? Because
Sure
it
does.
gives them all
The
those.
reason why I'm laughing,
It's true.
I think we're dealing with the COVID babies now, and you do see the anxious kids. You do see the children that struggle building those relationships and that struggle to communicate in those dynamics because they didn't experience it enough.
Yeah, but also transitioning from one
Yeah.
activity to another, right? Or that
Mm.
independence of, because at preschool they have kind of structure, so they know that I need to put my belongings back in my bag. I know I need to pack my things up. So that sense of independence that's taught,
Dependence, yeah.
and then that learning to transition or standing in line, things like that. They're foundational things that were learnt through preschool, and that's been a big thing that we've noticed. Not having preschool makes a very big difference to
Big
the sense of
difference.
safety
Yeah.
for the children and their ability to cope with those transitions and changes, and because some days things change on the day, and
Mm.
what's that going to look like? Yeah.
Like a different teacher. Yeah, yeah. Or
Different
different
teacher,
yeah, different
or
things. Yeah.
we're doing a fun run today, or we've got assembly
Mm.
today, and coping with that, because those coping skills for children to know that they're okay, um, that's a big
I
deal.
was just going to say, like, even just knowing how to emotionally regulate, that would be a big one. So
Mm,
if you think about the child finding it challenging to leave their parent, and how do they self-regulate, or do they need their parent to regulate? Like, I feel like those are so they're not spoken enough though, Anne. Parents need to
Definitely.
know this. It might just seem so trivial, but it's much more. It's the impact that we have to really emphasize. Quick break for an exciting announcement. This episode of Wine with Wita is brought to you by Nundies, the soft, sensory friendly, absorbent pants designed for kids who need a little extra support with toileting. As a speech pathologist and a mum, I often hear from parents navigating delayed toilet training or sensory sensitivities, and Nundies come up again and again. They are super absorbent, breathable, gentle on skin, and designed to help kids feel confident and comfortable. Whether it's for school days, long car drives, or just peace of mind at home, Nundies are one of those simple tools that can make a really big difference. And yes, they are covered under NDIS too. Plus, you can get 30% off your first order with the code WETA30 at confidenceclub.com.au. If you've been looking for something to take the pressure off those daily routines, I'll share the link in the show notes.
Yeah, and and I guess it's not only for the child, it's actually for the adult, because we know that in some cases, as adults, we've not been taught how to regulate properly or to be able to identify our own feelings, but we expect that of a child, right? So it can be very confronting when, as a parent, we get frustrated or annoyed because our child's, they might be upset and we're like, I just need to get to work and I need to drop you off. And it's
Yeah.
like all that anxiety in ourselves starts to build. And the
Mm.
amount of parents I've spoken to say, oh, but I used my nice voice and I was smiling and I'm like, you're okay, it'll be all right. And I said, yeah, but that little bubba
Energy.
stayed in your tummy and was raised there. They know when your body's saying, I'm anxious or I'm worried. And if that body is saying that to the child, then they're going, okay, if mum's not safe, I'm not safe. If
Yeah.
dad's not safe, I'm not safe. Like realizing that our own emotions and regulation are more than just our voice, our tone, and our face, because our kids read our bodies like a
They
map.
sure do. I love that. It's so right. And
Yeah.
even I'm just reflecting of my own daughter. Like I'm rushing to
Yeah.
go to work to get there on time, even though I'm not saying anything
Yeah.
that's not the norm. My daughter, my youngest daughter particularly, just feels it. She just knows that mum is erratic, and I just notice it in her behavior too. So yeah, I completely
We
understand
all
that.
do it, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah. And we try and pretend. We tell
Yeah.
ourselves and we
Let's
mask
go,
it.
let's
But
get in the car.
let me just mask
It's
from
like,
my
hurry up,
child.
hurry up.
It's okay,
Next
don't
minute,
rush, but I really need to go right now, right? So
beeping the horn.
exactly. So
Oh, the
not
joys,
saying
right?
we're bad parents, we all do it. It's just like just having that awareness is key, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, geez. It's school holidays here in New South Wales at the moment, so it's very calm. And I'm just thinking a week or so later from now, will I take on this information and just focus on my energy rather than my language?
Just breathe. Yeah.
Just
What
breathe.
can I do to prepare for the day, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Now let's talk about we touched briefly on this about social skills and how important it is for children to build relationships with their peers and self-advocacy. So that's from my perspective for
Mhm.
communication. How important are social skills for children to have before they start school?
Well, I think that's their ability to feel connected to others, whether that's their
Mm,
teacher, whether that's their peers. And as humans, everything about us is about being connected to others and to feeling that
yeah.
we're part of and that we belong, right? And if
Mm,
we're not able to, if we kind of feel like we're standing on the outside of that and we're not able to make those connections and build those relationships with people around us, and we're not asking for best friends right now, right? We're talking about kids going to kindy. So it's just about having kids that they can play with, that they feel safe and comfortable with, and they can start to learn those more nuanced ways of connecting and communicating with their peers as well. But
mm.
connection is everything.
I love that. For me, it's connection creates communication, and then communication helps build relationships, helps build self advocacy, helps build academics. Like we forget the simplicity of what it needs to be. And
Yeah.
this is where I'm going back to what you mentioned earlier. social expectations versus where my child is at developmentally.
Mm.
And I sit here and I actually think about it. Where did it all just become overly complicated, right? And I
Oh,
feel
I think it's
sometimes I even say to my mum, I wish we could go back to the 80s or the 70s where life just seemed really simple
it did.
and
Yeah.
happier.
Mm.
Yeah.
There was less pressure. I think there was
Yeah.
less comparison. I
Mm.
think now society, there is such that we're always comparing whatever it is, whether it's a car, whether it's our bag, whether it's our clothes,
Mm.
definitely comparing our children, right?
Yeah, you see it, yeah, in extracurricular. It's been like soccer. Johnny kicked the ball faster. Why couldn't you do it that way? I see that.
Yeah.
I see that. Yeah.
But even things like NAPLAN, the com-
Yeah. And that's another part too. Let's
oh no, sorry.
Oh, I have my own opinion about nap
Yeah,
plan.
me too.
I
We're
wish we
probably
never
aligned
do
in that
it.
as well, I think, Rita.
Oh, it's so much more than that, right? And this is where I feel like it's so important that parents understand health professional perspective that it's
Mm,
beyond the NAP plan results. It's beyond getting the spelling bee answers. It's the impact of a parent putting that unspoken pressure on a
yeah,
child sets them up to become the adults that they are, that they will become. And I see it firsthand with a lot of clients. They're so anxious if they don't achieve the right speech
mm,
sound, or they're so anxious that they didn't complete the right sentence. But it's not even about that. It's the fact that you spoke, you said it, you made that sound.
correct.
That's amazing. And building, and which I always say to the clients, building the intrinsic motivation for me
Yeah,
outrules everything else from a successful point.
yeah. And resilience, right? And our
Yeah, big
role as
one.
parents is to help build that resilience through,
Mm,
encouraging them to try, encouraging them to make mistakes. If a child's scared to make a mistake, they're not going to grow.
no.
And even as
Mm,
adults, if we're scared that we're going to get something wrong and that stops us trying something new, then we're not growing, we're stagnating and
yeah.
just staying in one spot. So, really encouraging that make mistakes. That's how we learn, that's how we grow.
Mm,
Mistakes are actually really good,
yeah.
you know,
So
um,
true.
changing because it's got such a negative view. I think it really has an impact. And it does impact that sense of anxiety comes in around making mistakes and things like that as well, or getting things wrong or saying the wrong thing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
see it. I see it. I see it with my own daughter. I actually, my eldest, she worries me because I feel like she's such a high achiever.
Mm,
But I do see when she gets an error or mistake, just the crumble that she experiences, and it
yeah.
worries me as a mum. And I'm doing everything in my capacity now to think of my daughter as an adult rather than who she is right now. Like I want to help her so when
Yeah.
she does cope with those situations, and it makes me think, could I have done something differently in kindergarten, right? Like all
Yeah.
those things that we're talking about, and we
Yeah.
just don't know. We're parents. We always
No.
think of the what's that phrase? I forgot what that phrase was, but we always want to. Oh, now I'm stuck on that phrase. I
It's
can't think of
okay.
that phrase.
It's
But
all good.
in
In
hindsight,
hindsight, yeah.
we always think about in hindsight. But every parent worries for their child, and it's about
Yeah.
being present in the moment and really helping them out now.
Yeah, for sure. And that
Mm,
now doesn't matter if it's kindergarten, year 3, year 6. It doesn't matter. The fact is you're doing it now,
yeah, that's it.
right? You can't
Perfect.
change
I think
what.
that's really hopeful for parents as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're human, right?
Mm,
We're going to make mistakes, and we know clinically that it's um, you know, could be formed as basic parenting or good enough parenting, right? So that means we're meeting the
mm,
needs of the child, we're showing them love, we're nurture, we're clean, we're feeding them and providing them with housing and safety. The other things we're going to make mistakes, we know that.
mm,
We just want to hope that we're navigating those in a way that it's not those really big mistakes that cause
yeah.
trauma, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes trauma can be losing a pet, it could be losing a grandparent, it can be seeing a car accident. So we know that it's not always something that happens within the home, but it's, these things happen and then it's navigating it at the time.
Yeah.
And we're going off on a
I love how
tangent,
you
so I'm going
mentioned
to come
no,
back.
because I feel it's all overlapping,
It
and
is.
but even trauma, it impacts a child's nervous system. And when the child's nervous system is dysregulated, we
Yeah.
know they can exhibit certain behaviors. And it goes back to the element of meeting a child where they're at now and
Mm.
connecting to supporting their needs. And I feel like the message for today's conversation is emotional support overrides a lot of the other elements, because when your emotions are intact, everything else can be supported, which is what I believe. Now,
Yeah.
given the base that we're on emotions, how important is emotional immaturity for kids when they start school?
There needs to be that element of emotional maturity so that they are able to cope and understand what's happening for them, what they're feeling. I think there's also that really big importance of that emotional maturity for the parent as well. And that's not just one, that's both. If we're living in a
Both.
two-parent household, it's both. And it's the people
Yeah.
around us to understand that and nurture that. Because we know, and coming back to where you just were talking about that nervous system and trauma, we also know that if a child's unable to soothe themselves to be able to feel safe, they're not going to be able to learn.
Yeah.
And if they know, say, that there is things that might be, and it could be that, a grandparent is unwell and mum's going out every night to try and support grandma and take food and all of that, but that's not her normal pattern of behaviour. So the
Yeah.
child's like, where's mum? And mum's not here. And I just don't, not that I don't feel safe with dad, but my life's been disrupted right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so how can we support the child with that, and just being aware? So if that's happening, letting the teacher know that, there's some things happening at home right now and we're just supporting him, but he might be a little bit off, or she might be a little bit off. That can actually help the way the child navigates the day at school, and how the teacher may be able to offer some additional support in that situation too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. Now, let's talk about the cutoff age for kids. Now, in New South Wales, children should be or must be enrolled in school by the age of 6. Now, what if a child, in your professional opinion, starts school at 6 but is still quite young,
Mm-hmm.
immature? What should they do? And
I,
why? My next point: why should parents really consider waiting till that age?
I think it definitely comes down to that emotional maturity to start with, and that awareness of self and ability to connect into others. But I
Mm-hmm.
think we're also got to look at, if a child is 6 and they're still emotionally immature, it might be that we look for some additional support for the child to kind of
Yeah.
get an understanding of what's happening. Or mum and dad may already know what's going on there for the
Yeah.
child, and that's okay. It's just disclosing it so that we can put supports in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
And
don't,
that's where I think like the element of development needs to be looked into, because typically,
yeah,
and I like to use that word wholeheartedly, typically children will be presenting a certain way, but sometimes when something's just not aligned, there could be an underlying diagnosis there, and the child needs the support to help them in the classroom. Yeah.
for sure.
Mm.
And we all know that, right? We all, like, if we've ever experienced something that's had gravity to it growing up throughout life, bless you.
Thank you.
Some of us, there'll be parts of us that are younger, that will
Mm.
be, specifically with trauma, we know that there'll be parts of us locked in that space, and it may be that emotional maturity. So it doesn't mean it stays there forever, but we need to do the work to heal that and to work with that
Yeah.
emotional maturity, build the skills and structure around us to support us to be able to navigate and feel
Yeah.
confident in ourselves. We can actually cope with those things when they come. So again, doesn't matter how old we are, we can always work with those things, but it's so much easier when we're little. And I
Yeah.
think,
So much. And I like to make a point, as adults, many adults are walking children
yeah,
because of their own traumas that they haven't resolved. And so when they display certain emotions, that is always the little version of them self communicating.
correct.
Always.
And I
Yeah.
always say, what does that child part of you need right now to
Yeah.
feel safe, to feel
Yeah.
loved and cared for? And that's not putting blame on anyone. It's just, it's such a scary thing as an adult to take that path, I think, of healing. And, you know, it might start off quite nicely, but then it gets difficult. And when it gets there,
It's deep and dark. Yeah.
we can either go, okay, I'm in pain now and I haven't gone down that road, but I know what this pain feels like, or I go down that road and I'm going to be in pain and I'm also going to not know what the end looks like.
Yeah.
And we've got to pick which pain we want to go with, you know, and that's a big decision.
And I think the most important, before we go back onto school readiness, when you heal yourself, you're all in your little version of yourself, you're also healing your child in front of you. So it's like a two-way relationship, and with the relationship with your partner too. So I know there's the buzzword about healing and trauma all over social media, but let's not see it from that, but more, what is the little version of yourself need? What is your behavior telling you, and how can you get that need met?
Exactly.
And it's not a two appointment thing. It's a long journey of years of treatment too. So don't be afraid of that, because the outcomes are incredibly beneficial.
Oh, it's amazing. But
Yeah.
it
It's
is
crazy. Anyway, I think we need,
it is.
and
You know,
this
you
is
made
really
me
high,
think of.
darling, that we need another topic. We are definitely speaking the same language, but the beauty of it is everything's overlapping. And
It
if you could
is.
see my hands right now,
Yeah,
everything has an impact to something. So if you're working on yourself, you're working on your child, which will then help them in the classroom. Like there's like that a gorgeous ripple
exactly.
effect.
And even that
Yeah.
part of, sorry, Rita, but I was
No,
just,
go for it.
you know, when you were talking about you work as an adult working with your child and how that impacts your own living child, you can work through that together with your child in that sense of, I can see you're really upset right now and you look like you might be feeling a bit sad. I think my child part of me feels sad too. Let's talk about that. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful because you're working together, but it is truly healing you and allowing you to be in that space. That's incredible, you know, and
Yeah.
powerful.
It
And it's
is.
private. You're doing it with your child. It doesn't have to be told to anybody else, but it's just
Private.
an amazing thing that you can do between you and your child. Yeah.
Just off topic, do you support families in this area for them to contact you?
Yeah, so I do work with connecting into looking at what
Yeah.
that inner
Okay.
child needs and developmental and attachment stuff
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
So any parent listening and you're getting those feels that some of your anxiety or triggers could be related to something that's happened, there's no harm in contacting someone to help. You can contact Anne, and I'll put her details in the show notes and she'll help you out. Now back to school readiness,
Yes,
Anne.
let's go. Sorry, you and I could go off on tangents all day.
I think we need a wine with Wita round 2. Now let's talk about school readiness. How can parents support school readiness at home without overwhelming themselves or their child?
Sure. Okay. So I think for me it would be starting early. So if the child's at preschool, it might be starting to build that independence of them packing their bag. Okay. It might be, you know, can you go and put your pants and your top on for school today or for preschool today and grab your shoes and socks for me? And we start to build on those steps to taking care of self. I think there's also that part of, you know, we know if the household, coming into mindfulness, for example, if there's one person within the household that practices meditation, mindfulness behaviors, the flow-on effect goes through the whole family, right?
Yeah.
So it may be even just taking a moment each morning or each afternoon to do some mindfulness with your child to help with breath, to help with sharing their feelings of what they're feeling in their body at that moment, and letting if there's anything that's sort of sitting with them, let's breathe that away and let that go. Or let's imagine
I'm
that
going to
as like,
interrupt you there briefly.
yeah,
I know we're talking about kindergarten and school readiness, but my daughter's starting high school next year. So that's her school
right.
readiness transition. And I love how you spoke about mindfulness. And a few months ago, I met a breathwork coach, a woman's breathwork coach.
Mhm.
And that work in itself helped with my transition into different phases of my motherhood. So I'm turning 40. So you can,
Yeah.
perimenopause is a few years away. But she taught me the element of stopping in the triggered moments and
Yes.
breathing and talking about what you're feeling in that anxious moment. And I
Yeah.
have 3 daughters, and that's what we religiously do. Every few hours in the day, we all just stop, we breathe and talk about what we're feeling. And that skill in itself
Huge.
has helped all my kids, but in particular, my eldest, and she's getting quite anxious before she starts high school.
Mhm.
But and I'm noticing the generalization of what we're doing because
Mm.
it's infiltrating into other areas. Like, she had a dance concert the other week. She was so confident, but she told me, "Mummy, I did the stops and I had the breath before I
Awesome.
went on the stage." Yeah. So any parent listening, I know it sounds like ridiculous to have deep breaths and to stop, but the
Wow.
impact when you have that mindful breathing and you model that to your children, that
Yeah.
ripple effect helps the family unit in many ways more than you know.
Yeah. And that the way you've just explained is very similar to a DBT stop skill. And
Oh,
it's that
yeah.
you stop, take a breath, observe what's happening. So look at the bigger picture,
Mm,
not just stuck in those emotions, and then
mm,
proceed mindfully.
yeah.
So proceeding with regulation of your mind and being able to make clear thoughts. And that sounds like they're very, very similar
Mm.
strategies, but so effective, especially if I know that those skills really work well with boys too. If you've got reactive boys,
Ah,
they will work. Yeah. So,
interesting. You should probably do like an online workshop for it so parents can learn or something. That would be interesting.
well, I'm just in the middle of finishing off some peaceful parent training, so then I can
Ooh, watch this
um,
space.
so that could happen. So it's teaching
And I think you
mindfulness to
said you're also
parents.
setting up your Instagram soon too.
Oh,
So
I'm
I
setting
think
up
if
everything at the moment. There's so much
okay,
happening. It's
we'll
crazy.
put it in the show notes so people can follow. People can follow you. We're going to finish up quite soon, but what's one thing parents think matters a lot about school readiness that actually doesn't?
Academics.
Letters and numbers and writing your name.
Yes. Or more. Some parents expect more, and I guess it's realizing that they're going to learn that at school. It's
Yeah,
okay. Them being able to count to 100 is irrelevant if they're not comfortable letting go of you and walking into that classroom each morning.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So
you
true.
know, yeah, we know that if the child is grounded, the child feels safe, the child will learn.
Yeah.
It
And
seems so
I
simple,
have
doesn't
loved
it?
this conversation. It taps into everything that I value as a health professional and as a mum. And it goes back to connection, emotional readiness,
Yeah.
and let's not put pressure on our kids. There's just so much pressure in
So,
every element in their life, but let's not add school
really,
as another pressure. We need kids to enjoy school because
yeah,
when you enjoy what you do, you learn, right?
it's true.
And
Yeah,
that's where success is developed.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's foster that.
Yeah. And for people to contact you, you will provide your website, and I'll put that all in
Yep.
the show notes and any social media handles and the contact number if anyone wants to reach out to Anne to support themselves but also their children. And you have been a delight to talk to today. We can keep going on, and I'd love to invite you to come back on again. Let's
Sure.
talk about the mindful parenting. I think that would be remarkable
Yeah.
for any parent when that's up and running.
Will do, for sure.
Yeah, and even having another conversation about trauma because it's so important for us to understand that.
Yeah.
And I ask all my guests, if you were to be a better version of yourself tomorrow, what word will you apply to yourself today?
Ooh, I think it would be self-love.
Oh, beautiful. Tell me more.
I just feel like I do get very busy and I get very caught up in doing other things. And today's been a really beautiful day where I've taken time and just taken things slowly for me. Um,
Yeah,
but I don't think I do that enough.
yeah,
So, yeah, self-love, nurturing, taking care of me. Yeah,
yeah.
so important. And for all
Excellent.
of us, I think.
Everyone needs that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode with Anne Murphy and understood how to support your child before they start school, as well as understanding other areas that we've discussed throughout this series. Please reach out to any health professional that you might need support with. but let's let your children enjoy starting school the best way that they can. Another episode of Wine with Wita will be brought to your ears next week. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Wita. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.